Oh, hello, Christopher.
Hello, Neil. How are you? How is everybody?
Hello. Hello, Facebook
It,
land.
it's actually Christian, by the way. It's not Christopher. So,
Is it
just a
Christian?
fun fact. Yeah.
Wow. How do you feel
That
about
actually,
doing a show with a Jew?
how do you feel about doing a show
There's
with?
no version of that. Why is Christian a name and like no one's named Jew? You ever notice that? Hi, what's your name? Hi, I'm Jew Lebovitz. You know what I mean? Like that never happens. Are there any other religions that have a name that is the religion?
Nah, none of them are obnoxious enough. I'll tell you what, it sucks. I started going by Chris in like ninth grade because let me tell you, there's nothing like the first day of school in elementary school when a teacher just looks real quick in an attendance sheet and calls out Christina. And you're like in third grade, and you're like, yeah, that's Christian. I'm a boy, so thanks. That's gonna all right.
Yeah. I mean, but Christian's a normalish name. I guess the only thing close to it would be Jesus, which I love that because it's Jesus. Like that's ballsy, I think, to name your kid.
Or like the Big Lebowski, the Jesus.
What? But isn't it like that? Like I think it like you have to have pretty good self-esteem if you're going to name your kid Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? Are there others? I've never really thought about this before. Are there others? Islam. No, I don't think so.
No.
Anyway, yeah, people might get upset that we're touching on race.
And if there's anything recruiters are familiar with, it's names, because God knows we look at a lot of them, right?
We do look at a lot of them. Yeah, my favorite, and this, I got in trouble once about how I said it at a conference. And so it's not, I'm not making fun of any race or anything like that, other than because we would do the same thing if we went to, let's say, India, and there's all these Indian names, we wouldn't really want to stand out with such a weird name like Neil Lebovitz or whatever it is. So we'd Indianize it, right? So I commented, right, that you'll have a very great, authentic, real Indian name, and in the middle they put parentheses to try to Americanize it, which I always found funny. Joe, you know what I mean? Like it'll be a name that first name and last name that we just don't have here, and in the middle it's Sally. Like I just found it funny that they did it. Now my problem that I got in trouble at the conference is I used I almost like I was doing a stand-up comedy show, which I shouldn't have done, and I did an impersonation of accents, which is no. So and I really offended someone that was from there, and I felt horrible. Like unfortunately she shared it with me, and afterwards I let her know, it's I didn't mean that at all, but I totally get how that's so offensive, but I was just doing like a cartoon. I was doing an impersonation of an Indian accent, or I do an impersonation of Chinese, or I do an impersonation of an American Jew. I do, like when I talk about someone, that's like my thing. I just do it. So I'm not making fun of anyone, but maybe I am. Like, I don't mean to, but I get how it got me in trouble is the point. And I'm like, why would I say that to a big group of people? Like the point is good. You have to Americanize it. And I would do the same. Like I would be Neil Habib Lebovitz or something, whatever it is,
And I can see where we probably wouldn't offend this group, but I bet you we're boring the shit out of them right now. So
we are. So let's get into heated stuff. So we have two things to do today.
Yeah.
We have a bit of a heated discussion on the group that you wanted to talk about. And it kind of goes into tools and stuff for recruiters.
A little bit, yeah.
And then we're going to talk about Zapier, because we got some emails last week saying, Neil, Chris, we want to talk about this. And there's some in the post that you saw. So Zapier is the integration engine that you can use for so many different tools. And we're going to explain what it is because you see it everywhere and how to use it if you've never used it. So Chris, you were chomping at the bit to talk about the assessment ones, I imagine, is the ones you wanted to get into.
The assessment one jumped out because that had some very strong opinions, right?
And it's good because assessment are a lot of tools that recruiters want to know what they use. And talk about that. And I'm curious if you have a favorite.
Yeah, it's tech. So I've used a bunch. So to take a step back, there was a post about what does everyone think about personality tests, right? And there was some strongly worded negative responses to that, which I get, because here's the thing: a lot of employers use them wrong, right? So they can sometimes, I've lived through it myself, where an assessment has like torpedoed a potential
where they make it an all or nothing, stupid, like not just a factor in the decision, but they make
it's a make or break. Yeah. Like there was a client that I stopped working with years ago who had this assessment that they just swore by. And it's because the private equity company that invested in them someone had sold someone at that level on it. So that's what they used in all their companies. And like, if they didn't hit a certain, if you didn't have a certain score on it, you just didn't get hired. And after a lot of time spent trying to put people at that company was still doing a lot of contingency work. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze. It didn't make sense to spend my time on that. And I can definitely appreciate that from a recruiter's perspective, because if you're at the whim of some randomly selected assessment that they're not administering properly and they're also using as like a make or break, then it's a shitty situation. It sucks, right? So the thing about assessments is it requires a little work up front. And we all know that a lot of the companies we work with don't want to do that, right? So it's super important to have a benchmark to actually compare someone against, right? So there's different types of assessments that are out there for good. There we are. Oh, you're just doing some screen sharing.
I'm doing this right here.
Well, yeah. Okay, cool. So there's different assessments that are good for different things, right? And not that I'm an expert on those. I just know that there are some, like there's one I use for specifically sales jobs, and it happens to compare someone across like 12 different types of sales positions, ranging from like an appointment setter to outside sales, long cycle, short cycle. Anyone who's hired for sales knows that sales isn't just like one category. And there's some other ones that I've utilized, but the common thread is you have to have a baseline, you have to have a benchmark, right? So you have to you can't just have the hiring managers that try to use this as a silver bullet, where they saw it, they heard about it, they're like, oh, okay, this person scored well, so I'm going to hire them. Yeah, those turn out terrible because you're not really basing it on anything, right? You have to have an assessment of what's the target profile. Like, what are we actually looking for? This is the same thing as when you Google interview questions and just ask them at random and don't even know what you're looking for. If you do an assessment and you don't know what you're looking for, it's freaking useless. Right.
So which ones do you recommend? Like, which have you used that people should check out? Do any that come to mind?
Well, so there's a few that come to mind, but I think the bigger point though is if number one, I've had clients ask me over the years, like, oh, do you have an assessment you do? And I've always told them, listen, no, I don't, because every company is different. Every situation is different. Like a recruiting firm cannot just have an assessment they administer to everybody and say that is applicable to every client, every situation. That's just ludicrous, right? And so some of them had used their own, but ones that had better success, they did like a benchmark where the hiring team actually figured out, like one of the ones I work with, Predictive Index, I do a lot of work with that. That one has us go in and create a job profile. You get input from the hiring managers. It synthesizes the profile, both behaviorally and cognitively, of what we're looking for, so that then when we assess people, we have something to compare it against. Now, there are plenty of times that with clients that use that I work with, that someone hasn't fit the profile, but there's other things that make a difference, right? There's other factors, there's their background, there's other variables. It can't be the one and only, right? It has to be a single data point in concert with other data points. So that one, again, I do a lot of work with that. So I'm not trying to like do a commercial for that one, but or say even like there's a sales.
Have you used eSkill at all?
What's up?
eSkill?
I don't know that one. I have some clients that use like Caliper. That some people like to use Disc, and let me tell you, Disc is just like a thumbnail sketch. Like Disc is just giving you a rough idea of I'm talking to someone who's roughly in this quadrant, that quadrant.
I hate that. I hate Disc. I hate it.
It's too vague. Listen, it's a great tool for like a salesperson to size somebody up real quick and say, okay, this person makes decisions quickly. This person needs a lot of information. This person, I should slow it down. This person, I should speed it up. It's good for that. It's freaking awful for hiring. It doesn't give you enough information, right? But people like it because it's cheap, right? But I mean, anything that you implement, even like the sales assessment, I like. The one I really like is called the APQ. It's a company, Asher, does sales training out of DC. And this assessment, it's been around for about 30, 40 years. You can go right on their site and buy it. You don't have to buy it through me. But it assesses someone based on all these different types of sales positions, right? That's good. But even when I have clients use it, I say, listen, if I'm going to hire a sales manager or an outside salesperson or something for you for like an IT company or something, I'm like, you need to take the assessment. Your team needs to take the assessment. We need to figure out what works for your company and make sure this person fits into that mix, because without all those other data points, this is really pretty useless. So I think a lot of assessments are just used wrong. You can't take it out of the box and just give it to somebody and take that information with no context. Again, that's just like taking an interview question off the internet, asking it, and not even knowing what answer you're looking for. So that's
great. So I've had clients throughout the years, and my clients who have clients that use lots of different ones. So there really isn't one catch-all that people use. I would say if a client asks you, or if you want to assess people, what LinkedIn turned me on to it a while back, but it's called eskill.com. And it is, it's always great. It's one of the top ones that you're going to see out there. And as they called it, why I liked it, they called it the Swiss Army knife of skills. It's skills testing, and it's aptitude for very specific roles. So that's one I think people should check out. That's my take.
And there were some comments about people using the wrong kind of assessment for, they're giving a behavioral system assessment when they're looking at like a software developer's technical skills. Like that doesn't make sense. And actually, I've done a lot of hiring for software developers. So when you come to like skills assessments, the best ones I've seen and the ones that were most predictive are when they would just kind of whiteboard a solution, just pseudocode, right? Like, hey, in whatever language you're most comfortable in, show me how you would do this. The ones that want to understand their thought process, not like some random website has a Java skills test. Like that's garbage. That's not what the good companies I work with, the ones that are really sharp and the ones that really understand what makes a good developer, they want to know how they think. You know what I mean?
Now, but the real answer is for people out there, if you're good in your niche, okay, meaning you know it, you've been doing it a long time, you feel comfortable in really determining who's good versus who's not. You need to convince them not to use the test when they use you, right? And you're on the line for it, your reputation's on the line for it. And there's no test that's going to replace what you do as a human being, going into it. And if it's human resources, I can get they might want something simple, but the line people and you together should be able to make the assessment. All right, Chris, that said, just in the interest of time, I do want to get to what we promised people of and go through some of the tools out there. So next week, we've got a great outreach segment of really cool things, some of which you've never heard of before, that do some amazing artificial intelligence type things. This week, we want to talk about Zapier. And I don't know if it's pronounced
Zapier or Zapier.
I've heard people say Zapier, but they call them Zapier. So is it Zapier? Zapier. Is it Zapier? Is it Zapier? Someone says Zapier, which reminds me of Seinfeld. Paper mache or whatever they called it there. So there are a lot of integration tools out there. There's Integromat, which is the fanciest out of all of them, which I'm going to say that and Zapier are my favorites. Zapier by far. So if you ever, were to Google, hey, how do I integrate my CRM with this? You're likely going to see these show up in your Google searches, and they're going to have names like Automate.io. You'll see that one a lot. Workato, right? You're going to see that one a lot. You're going to see Boomi. You're going to see Integromat. You're going to see Zapier. So you'll see PiSync. Again, the three that I actually use, I'd add PiSync in there, but PiSync, really what that does.
What's the PiSync? You said
PiSync, PiESYNC.
Okay.
Now, what's good about PiSync is, someone texted me, it's papier mache. Scott, right, from Seinfeld. Remember, Costanza, she calls it papier mache. Right, she was really affected. Thank you, Scott, for that. Funny. That always makes me laugh. 20 years later, Seinfeld still makes me crack up. So,
yeah.
Tell me
how long ago it was.
Oh my God, it was. It ended in it ended like almost 20 years ago, didn't it? I think.
Pretty much.
Which is craziness. Anyhow, PiSync is something you all need to do if you have and it's the best one by far. Don't even look further. If you have two databases that you use and you want to keep in sync. So let's say you use Bullhorn and you love it for that, but you want to use HubSpot for email marketing. Right. So the big problem that you have when you're dealing with two totally different databases or CRMs or ATSs is that you want to use the data from one to the other. So you could use a combination of PiSync and Zapier Mache, and have them work as one. So what PiSync
the challenge too is they all want to own your data. So all of them want you to just use them.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And this enables you to be free and to utilize the best tools in the marketplace. So what PiSync will do, as opposed to the others, is PiSync's nice and simple. It's going to take one database and it's going to keep it in real-time synchronization with the other. So it'll take, and it's great for migration too, by the way. So it'll take Bullhorn and it'll keep that in sync with HubSpot. So when you add a contact to one, it adds it to the other. When you remove a contact to one, it removes it from the other. If you want to get every new candidate that you sync into your ATS from LinkedIn and you want that to go into your email program, PiSync will keep them in sync. You pay a monthly rate and it's so easy to use. So play with that. A lot of people don't know that tool exists.
I'm scrolling through it right now. There's a lot of integrations it has. So I'd heard of Zapier, because every tool I feel like I've used has.
Well, they're different, right? So Zapier's not meant for that. Zapier's not meant for keeping, and I'll show you the difference. You'll use both of them in sync, right? So,
yeah, because this has like a lot of major tools in it and all kinds of stuff. QuickBooks, like phone systems. I had not heard of this, so look at that.
Yeah. Let's do it. I mean, everyone could pull it up, but let's do a screen share, so you could see it. And hang on there.
Because that's a big challenge. So we're talking about, because there's tech that we can be using, but then getting all that tech to work together, or, how you decide what tool you use is usually determined by how well it works with another tool. So if you have some kind of go-between that.
Do you see it now? You see my screen?
I see your screen, but it's your face frozen and you're frowning.
Oh, I don't like to frown. All right, let's fix that. So let's stream it up.
Maybe you're sharing a different tab.
No, it should show up there. It should show. Come on, stream. Stop sharing. Hold on. I'll do it again. Now you can see me, right? You see me live. Yeah.
Yep.
Share screen. Share screen. I'm just gonna do the full thing here. Can you see it now?
Oh, there we go. Okay.
All right. Yep. So these are all the things that PiSync will sync with, right? So 253 apps, but again, this will keep them all in full-time synchronization. Zapier doesn't work that way. What I'll show you with Zapier is going to create automation specifically for different tasks and features through applications. So, I mean, you can keep your iCloud always in sync with your Gmail. Like, again, any two on here, you could sync. And by definition, you could sync 3 or 4 by just creating different syncs. You could sync iCloud to Gmail. You could sync Gmail to HubSpot. You could sync HubSpot to whatever, you name it, right? So this is how you do that, okay? So play with this. See, like there's Bullhorn again, right? So you'll keep these all synchronized. So it's wonderful, okay? Now, the next one, let's get rid of that.
And if anybody's used this, definitely chime in some comments, because this is pretty cool. I'm not familiar with this one.
Yeah, I see. Well, hey, that's what the show's about, Christopher. Yeah. Now, hold on. I know I'm not sharing it again. I want to.
I'm still scrolling through all the integrations. There's
a boatload of them, right? Boatload of them. So I just want to try to do this again. So is it nice and big now still?
Yep. It's nice and big, Neil. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was Headhunters and Boxers for a second. So
no, we don't talk about junk. That's saved for David or whatever. All right, so what Zapier does, Zapier Mache, is Zapier works by taking two apps, and they have tons of them. I mean, you'll see Same deal. And I'll show you the ones that I use, but you're going to see a boatload of apps. I mean, thousands of apps that they have. And what they'll do is they'll make one app talk to another based upon activity. All right. So I'm going to see where they have the total app. I mean, there's a boatload where, and you can see I have a plan where I do 2,000 zaps, but to give you an idea. So you have two things in a zap. You have a trigger and you have an option. I mean, and you have a trigger and you have an action, right? So anything that happens in Gmail, you could then make something happen into your CRM.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So like in my email, I have a communication with a client or a contact, and then it adds that as like a note in my CRM. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Exactly. So let's anything that your system doesn't do, you can automate with Zapier. So now maybe Bullhorn has a great built-in Gmail integration. You won't need this. Let's say it doesn't. Any email that you have, you can have go there. I'll show you ones that I have. So just to give you an idea.
Yeah, because I feel like this opens up options for you, because I noticed that integrations on different tools, they're kind of, they don't hit every category. So like they do some things great and then other things they don't do at all. So I feel like a tool like this kind of fills in the blanks.
Totally fills in the blanks. Totally. And, you'll see. So here are the apps that I use. And like I said, there's a gazillion of them. And when I buy my CRM, I got like HubSpot has a gazillion things that integrate, right? So you can integrate Duck Soup, right? Dub, which is, we're going to do that on another show. That's video. Like Dub has some normal fine integrations, but I want my HubSpot. I want to use Dub for their integrations because Dub has really cool features that HubSpot doesn't. So I can make it so anytime I check a certain box in my CRM or I tag it as Dub or whatever I want it to do, it'll go ahead and tell Dub to write whatever actions Dub has, to go ahead and do this Dub video workflow, okay? So that's totally the key, right? So Facebook groups, you got Gmail. So Calendly, let me give it, right? So you can see I got my HelloSign, which is my DocuSign, MailChimp. I mean, so many things work into it. Phone Burner. So you have all these tools that might have a basic integration, or many don't have an integration. So what Zapier did was they wrote the API, which is the way that the two systems talk to each other, application protocol interface, or whatever the heck it stands for again. They wrote it for all these programs. And so what you can do is you make a Zap. So someone, for example, that works for me has two different businesses. One uses Calendly, which everyone's familiar with, but they have Outlook for their one work, and they have Gmail, which is what Boss uses for its calendar. So they want to know, oh, this stinks. I'm getting overlaps. Like Calendly's great. Calendly can pick up, Calendly's good because it'll allow you to check busy times with multiple. You can do Outlook and Gmail as an example in Calendly. What it won't do is what happens if you book an appointment in one calendar on your own. You don't go through Calendly. You're going to want to book that in two different calendars, or like you're going to get duplicate bookings. So I'm like, well, we'll create a Zap for that. She's like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, well, it's real easy. Let's go ahead and take Calendly. And there it is. So what it'll have, it just starts like this. You pick your app that you want, right? And it walks you through all the steps. So there's Calendly. And again, you can pick everything you want. All right. What event do we want? An invitee was created, right? So these are the triggers. They only have 2 triggers for Calendly. Sometimes you'll see 100 triggers. Sometimes you'll see 2 actions that can happen. But we just want to know when there's a calendar invitee, when that's created. So anytime there's an appointment basically created in Calendly, we want to go into Google Calendars, let's say. Let's type in calendar. Oops. I'm sorry, we got to choose the account for Calendly. I don't really use it anymore, but hopefully it's still active. So you choose it. All right. So it's created the trigger. It's really it'll test it to make sure the integration works. Again, now this is just saying I don't have any invitees because I don't use Calendly. Anyone who uses it, you'll have one. Okay, so I'm just gonna skip the test because that's how it works. Don't worry. All right, and so that's great. And now I can have multiple steps. When I have one step, I want to go into Google Calendar, and this is what you can do. So I can create a new calendar. I can delete an event. I can add an attendee. I can update an event. I can quick add. So I want to create a detailed event from it. And click continue. And it's going to ask me for my account. Obviously, I'm going to go into my boss back office staffing solutions. Again, I think it's all self-explanatory. And then this is what you get to do. So it's going to create an event, and it's asking you, basically, we're going to take everything you have in Calendly. We already know the fields that are there because we wrote this API for you.
And we're going to run it here.
Right. Calendar. And so what calendar do you want it into? Right. So for my accounts, I have all these calendars. I wanted to go to my boss calendar as an example.
Yeah.
I wanted to have the start time, and it's going to pick from Calendly. These are the Calendly fields. My start time is going to be the event. It'll be the event time, right? Event start time right there. And I'm going to sync that. So you just tell it what fields you want to move over from Calendly into your Gmail. And that's how it works. And it's really cool. And that's it. And it's done.
I can see where that would be handy on so many levels. I mean, even just I can appreciate the calendar management challenges too. That's just one dimension of this.
There's almost always a Zap for that. So when you have a shortcoming, or when you say to yourself, "Oh man, I wish it did this," the answer is if it says integrated with Zapier, and most do. Again, there's thousands of them. Anyone that wants any integration is going to have a Zap available, right? You're going to see that in almost every program that you have. And again, more them than all the other ones. That's why I said just go with Zapier Mache, right? So, I mean, here's what I use, like things you've never heard of before. Like, this is a pop-up box that we have, right? So this is a pop-up program that I had, or again, that I have on certain web pages. It's just great pop-ups. It wasn't integrated into anything. Then if I get on a different program, if I get incoming calls, and this is just way when I was testing Zoho. You can do literally anything you want. I will have non-related pop-ups, let's say, where I want to capture people's emails, and it's a program, and I want to get that into HubSpot, right? So these are people that go to my web pages that I have. I use a thing called swipe pages that I use as the back end for my website. No native integration. It uses Zapier. Anytime anyone gets an ebook from that page, I wanted to go into HubSpot and have everything in HubSpot automated from there on in. So I just use these. I love the native integration here. Well, Neil, can't you use your CRM and create a form for any page? Forget it. I love the way their pop-ups look, or I love the way their page looks. So I just say anytime anyone submits the form on this page, right?
Yeah, the UI for this is really intuitive. I feel like
so intuitive.
Simplifies it. Yeah.
Go to HubSpot. This is my account. All right. And create this following action. All right. And this is what I have. I want it to just go to the email. Go to the contact email. Right. And you have all of these fields that you could choose from that you want to do. Right. All these. Look at all these possible actions you have within HubSpot. Look at these. You could have any of these automated and filled out. You might want to have, hey, it's good. I'm getting my email sync. I mean, look at this. This is just nonstop, right? So I change, and you'll see if you go through these slowly, you'll see I wanted them to have an active status. I wanted the lead status to show up as new anytime they're entered, right? On the contact information, I'm going to create a tag that shows they downloaded this ebook, right? So, I mean, it does all this for me instantly. Every time they do it, it uses 1 credit. 1 credit. And again, I'm still scrolling on all the things it can do to my HubSpot. So at a minimum, set up a free account, right? And I'm not done. I'll show you a couple other things.
Yes, like what kind of pricing ballpark are we talking, so people have a sense for like what a tool like this?
So it's pretty darn reasonable, and you'll know based on your Zap. So you can get a free account. So I'm on the Pro plan. I get 2,000 of them. It resets each month.
Does it roll over at all, or is
it does not roll over?
Okay. You gotta pick the right size plan then.
Yeah, you can start free. So start free to play, so you can see what you have. It's worth its price in gold, right? So if you play with your, again, it should take us to the pricing page.
Neil, can you pull up your credit card information and just leave that?
I was looking at that. I'm like, yes. Could you freeze screen that, please? So there's a free plan. You can get 750 tasks a month for $20, right? I'm on the $50 a month plan. I mean, it's 2,000 tasks. And again, most of my stuff is, is advanced. I really want a great, nice feature for it. I'll typically go through pretty close to the 2,000 in there. And I have several accounts that I use for it, just that I've set up over the years. So again, give you some ideas. And then, if you have any questions, quiz. Do you have any questions, quiz? I go from Outlook to the boss thing, so I could synchronize Outlook emails, jot forms.
So one thing that I do a lot of throughout the week is, I'll have an email exchange with a client or a candidate, and I'll, just quickly copy and paste the conversation, just dump it in their record, right? Save it as a note or whatever.
Right.
That's the kind of thing where you could link it so that if I have a conversation like in my Outlook through Office 365, totally. And what does it do? Recognize that person's email in my database, and then
so it'll depend on how your database works. So like with Infusionsoft, they'll and most of them they'll recognize, they can match it by phone number. And some Infusionsoft, for example, requires an email match. So we have an email, you do it. Some could match it based upon city and whatever. And typically it's an email match in your main CRM. Now, what you can do is a lot of times, I use a lot for Google Sheets. So I want a Google Sheet of everyone that I found on LinkedIn. So I'll have LinkedIn, basically talk to Seamless, find out, and I'll enter all my people who switch jobs in my target demographic within 90 days. That's great for me. For back office, someone who created their own independent firm in the last 90 days. And some of you have heard of it that way. This is how we do it. I have Seamless gather as much information as I can. And I have a Zap from Seamless going into Google Sheets. So we have a call sheet.
There's your call list based on people who've moved jobs.
That's right. Call list right into Google Sheets. And you can have that go directly into your CRM. You can have Google Sheets go into your CRM and all sorts of fun things that you can do. Okay. And you'll see integrations, all over that I've created. Some are on right now, some are not. But, some of them you can't tell by the name, but these are triple integration, right? And that you can get for an advanced plan. So, again, in any event, you could do tons of things. You can use these apps. Let's say you have you want to use a voicemail drop system, and you want to get one that integrates voicemail drop, right? That's when you leave a voicemail and the phone never rings, but your ATS doesn't do it. That's fine. Use you can use anything that's on here. So call loop is one. Drop Cowboy is another. And all you need to do is just create the trigger. Anytime I do X in Bullhorn, I want you to create this in call loop, which will see a voicemail drop, or just one voicemail drop, and it'll do it for you. So anything you have to do manually or you wish it could do, this will do for you. And that's how it works.
Sorry, I got an overzealous German Shepherd.
By the way, speaking of which, since we're on this, everyone there needs to download an app called Crisp. Do it. It's free for 120 minutes a day. It's $5 a month, and it will be the best $5 you spend on tech. Chris, can you hear this? I don't know. I didn't pick this mic up, so you can hear this, right? You hear my clap, yeah? All right, so I'm going to change.
I have you muted because apparently the mailman's out front, and I made the mistake of setting up in my living room, so that's why you hear.
Well, did you hear me? Did you hear my clap?
I heard you clap. I have myself muted because of all the barking.
How about this? Isn't that amazing? That was a loud clap. I'm not faking this. Nothing, right? How the hell do they do it? I don't know. It will stop. They will not, all dog barks, anything going on in the background, they're not going to pick up. You got kids in your house. You're working from home. Crisp, KRISP. I got nothing to do with it. It is my favorite app. It's a lifesaver. So
well, this unplanned
we now have a
event helped illustrate that pretty well.
No, how cool is that though? How cool!
It's very cool.
That you cannot hear, like you got a dog. Like you don't want to have a dog bark in the middle, let's say even a recording or a show like this. It's embarrassing, Chris. You've embarrassed us with this and you don't have to. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking about that. So Chris, any thoughts, closing comments on that? Because that's our show. Use Zapier, do a free account. Check out the apps. There's Google Sheets that you never thought about doing with. It'll sync sheets, spreadsheets you already have. It could put them, the results. It'll work the other way around. Google Sheets, anytime you change a cell, it'll upload and upload that to your CRM. So you can work off
great too, because like let's say you have a virtual assistant, they're doing work in Google Sheets, but you don't necessarily want to have them have a license for your ATS or your CRM, but you also don't want to like get a license for them or like have them use your license so you're boxed out of it. If they're updating things in a sheet for you, doing some research and it's populating a CRM, there's a great solution right there. So I haven't really used Zapier, whatever. Nor have I checked out this PiSync. So this isn't like a commercial for them, but this is a perfect example of what Neil and I were talking about in terms of tools that help make a recruiter's life easier, right? Because it's all about like a tool is fine and good, but it's got to have a purpose. It's got to be useful. And a tool that helps the tools work together, it's a good place to start.
All right. So that's our show. Next week, make sure you show up. We're doing artificial intelligence outreach programs and not the normal ones. We're not talking about Octopus. We're not talking about Duck Soup. We're not talking about Linked Helper. We're talking about really cool state-of-the-art AI outreach programs that are beginning to proliferate the web. What tools you need to use, how to use them. Join us next week.
See you. So I think that was awesome. I think that
we're still live, brother, but we do think it was awesome. Sorry about that, but it was. But it's a good thing we didn't.
Well, I was saying, like, it's nice to be able to show screenshots of things.
Didn't say anything like those damn people, right? So anyway, thank you, everyone.